Okay, let's start Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is about quadratic equations, and in 9-1 we're getting an introduction to quadratic equations and functions. Before we start, there's a couple key ideas, key facts for quadratic equations that you should know. Not necessarily already know, but just two things that we're going to talk about for the rest of the chapter. And the first one is that all points on the graph, meaning if the quadratic is like this, or like this. Sorry, that's connected right there. Okay, it might be like this. Could also be like this. We'll see them all four directions. All points that are on that graph are solutions to the equation. Okay, so they are solutions. If it's on the graph, it is a solution. And number two, all solutions to the equation appear on its graph, meaning there's no surprises. You're not going to have solutions that fall along this curve, this parabola, and then have a random point down here. That doesn't happen. Everything that is a solution is on the graph. So if you can graph the equation, you effectively graph every possible solution that there is. Okay? In example 1, we're going to start first with an example equation, y equals 1/2 x squared plus 8. And without graphing, we're going to see if the points, and we've got example A, B, and C, whether the points are solutions. So if it's a solution, we will get a true statement when we plug in 4 for x and 16 for y. Remember, our ordered pairs go x, y. The x coordinate is always first. So I'm going to plug it in. Y is 16 equals 1/2. Now I've got 4 squared. Our exponent rules, we've got to be careful with that now in quadratic formulas, in quadratic equations. Order of operations means I have to do this part first. So I'm going to leave 16 as it is. I'm going to leave 1/2 as it is. 4 squared is a 16, and I'm going to add 8. Now, order of operations, I'm going to multiply first. Again, I'm going to leave the 16 as it is. Half of 16, 1/2 times 16, or 16 over 1, is 8, plus 8, 16, and 8 plus 8 is 16. We get a true statement. That means 4/16 is a solution. The answer is yes. The answer will either be yes or no for these types of questions. The answer is yes, because we got a true statement. That true statement is 16 equals 16. Let's do example B. I'm going to give us a little more space. So again, I'm going to plug in y, and this time y is 10. So I have 10 equals 1/2 times x, which is a -2 squared, plus 8. Order of operations means I have to do this exponent first. 10 equals 1/2. -2 squared. Now this is why the parentheses comes in handy. It's not negative times 2 squared. It's a -2 squared. So -2 times -2 gives us a positive 4. You can use the multiplicative dot or keep it in parentheses. That's up to you. 10 equals, now I'm going to do the multiplication before the addition. Half of 4, or 1/2 times 4 is 2, and 2 plus 8 is 10. So the answer to B, since I get a true statement, is yes. Okay, so far, hopefully so good. C, let's do one more. This time my y is 0. Doesn't mean I don't write anything, it means I just write 0. Okay, don't get confused by that one. 1/2, I've got a -4 squared plus 8. Leave the 0, leave the 1/2, do the exponent first. -4 times -4 is a positive 16 plus 8. 0 equals 1/2 times 16 is 8, and 8 plus 8 is 16, not 0. That is not a true statement. The answer is no. Okay. Now, in example 2, we need to graph it. So, like we did with linear equations, we're going to do an XY chart. And we're going to plug in values. I'm going to ask that at this time you do -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. You'll find out why soon enough. We're going to do 5 points. Now, this is going to be hard to do in your head, especially with that exponent of 2. So please do it off to the side until you get a lot of practice. So let's start by -2. So we have a 1/3 and a -2 squared. The -2 squared has to happen first, so we've got 1/3. -2 squared is 4. That means my y is 4/3. Graphing improper fractions, while it's possible, I think it's easier to do it as mixed numbers. So 4/3 is 1 and 1/3. 1 and 1/3. I need the space. So -2, 1 and 1/3, I'm going to go -2, +1 with a tiny little bit above it. That's about as close as I can get on the iPad. Now let's do it with -1. Y equals 1/3 times the -1 squared. Do the -1 squared first. -1 times -1 is a +1, so you get y equals 1/3. I'm going to go -1, +1/3. That's about as close as I'm going to get. Let's do 0. And 0, you might be able to do this one in your head. When you plug in 0 for x right here, 0 squared is just 0. 0 times a third is still 0. So my next point is 0, 0. I could write these as ordered pairs next to it. -1, 1/3, 0, 0. Okay, and we'll do the next two. I'm going to erase this so I have the space though. So let's do it with 1. We have y equals 1/3 times 1 squared. 1 squared is just 1. 1 times 1/3 is 1/3. So we're at 1 now, and oops, 1/3. I can get a little closer. Oh, maybe not. Right there. That's just not close enough. Let's try one more time. Okay, that's going to have to do. Let's do it with 2. Y equals 1/3 times 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Y equals 1/3 times 4. That's y equals 4/3. And just like we did for -2, it's easier to graph when it's a mixed number. That's 1 and 1/3. So now I'm +2, and I go up 1 1/3. It's about right there. Now, I graphed them. I graphed the points. In order to graph the function or the equation, I need to connect them. So I'm going to go up, and I'm just going to try to follow the curve. Okay, I'm making a parabola. That's what this shape is called. And if you notice, I'll change colors. There's a symmetry to it. If I were to fold it along the y-axis, okay, I would have a mirror image. That becomes important soon. Okay, so this would be my equation, and just like we did for linear, we need to label it. So y equals 1/3 x squared, and that would be our graph. Y equals -4 x squared. Let's do an xy chart. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. When x equals -2, we're at -4 times the -2 squared. -2 times -2 is a +4, Then we've got this negative 4 times positive 4. That's negative 16. Y equals negative 4 times a negative 1 squared. Negative 1 squared is just 1, and 1 times a negative 4, negative 4. Y equals negative 4 times 0 squared. Anything times 0 squared times 0 is just 0. Y equals negative 4 times a 1 squared. 1 squared is just 1. That means y is a negative 4. You might be noticing a pattern. If not, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Negative 4 times a 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 4 is a negative 16. Alright, now to graph it. Maybe if I zoom in it'll be a little bit easier. Okay, so I need to go negative 2, negative 16, negative 2, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm way down here. Can't even graph it on here. Negative 1, negative 4. Here's my negative 1, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. 0, 0, that's at the origin. 1, negative 4, right here. And then 2, negative 16 is way down here again. So I'm going to go down, and this is very